Welcome to the very first episode of Going Yard with Coach
and 7.
Hey, in this episode, we're going to talk about something super important. It takes massive volunteer parent hours to help your child's team run successfully. We're going to discuss some ways that you can help separate that coach role from that parent role.
And the player from the child role. And by the end of this video, you're going to have at least 3 tips to be successful. So, good work.
Talking about how to separate that coach role from that parent role when you're involved with your child's team. A little bit about me. I've been coaching youth sports for 21 plus years, revolving around building strong leaders, building positive environments for the kids I coach. In the last 11 years, I've coached at least one of my kids in that time frame. So I speak this from experience. I've done a ton of research and reading and studying on how to best coach Little League and the youth of our community. And it can be extremely difficult to create that separation, especially as a volunteer from coach and parent. And it creates a huge divide, not only in a team environment, but a family environment. DJ, what are your thoughts?
He tends to be a little harder on me and not favorites me or, plays daddy ball. And I try my best to listen to the assistant coach equally as I listen to him, to show that because he's my dad, I only listen to him. So.
Yeah, and one of the things I think DJ does a really good job in is allowing that separation to happen. He's not always coming to me for everything when we're on the field, and then disregarding that assistant coach as he talked about. So we want to make sure that we give you guys the 3 key components to help you be successful. And let's start with number 1, Deej. What do you think one of the first things is that can help coaches and child relationship, player relationship work?
When you're in the car coming home from a practice or a game, a physical indicator like taking off the hat or taking off the whistle, whatever, is an indicator.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. So one of the things that I've incorporated every time, let's take after a game for an example. As a coach, as a dad, we want to talk about it. We really want to recap that game the second we get in the car. So one of the things that we do is I will physically take off my hat, specifically in a baseball environment. In this situation, as a coach, I'll always wear a hat. And when we get in the car, after the game is over, all the gear's loaded up, I'll take my hat off and put it on the dash. And that's usually incorporated with something like, hey, DJ, I'm super glad I was there with you today. I'm proud of the work you put in. And so that kind of resets that tone from the game and the coach side to the family and the dad side. Any thoughts on that, 7?
You even asked can we talk about this? And if I say no, you allow it.
Yeah, so that brings us to the second point. And I'm so glad you mentioned that. So the first one is our physical indicator. The second one is actually asking your child, asking your player, hey, is it okay if we talk about this right now? Whether it was a super good game or a game that we can recap and really learn and grow from, it's important that they have buy-in and feel that you're hearing them. So as 7 mentioned, I will ask him straight up, hey, are we good to talk about this? Or can we talk about that strikeout? And correct me if I'm wrong, 7, but if you say no, do I keep hounding you on that?
No, I've said no before. I've been really upset before, and you said okay. So, yeah.
Yeah. And do we ever after that cool down period, do we ever go back to that and revisit the game, or
No, unless I say, never mind, I want to talk about it. No.
yeah? And as he's matured, that's how that's kind of gone. Honestly, even if he says no, he'll sit on it for a few minutes or the ride home or whatever, and he'll be willing to bring it up at the dinner table or whatever, and then he ends up asking me. So I really appreciate that leadership in him, and that he's mature enough to recognize, like, hey, I'm super upset, don't really want to talk about it now. But after some reflection, he ends up coming to me, and we have an open conversation about it, and are able to discuss that game or that event that he either did really well or has room for improvement. So fantastic. Seven, what's our third point that we should talk about here today?
Nicknames. On the field, I call you Coach. I ride home, and at home, I call you Dad. And you call me Seven on the field, and DJ at home, and even D-Rex on the field. He has a lot of nicknames for.
I tend to be a nickname guy, right? Like, I tend to be a nickname guy, but yeah, no, fantastic. Yeah, point number 3 is overall nicknames, right? When we get in our practice mindset, in our game mindset, in that coach-player relationship, I do my best to call him Seven. That happens to be his number, has been since he was a T-ball player, and so Seven has been his nickname on the field. He mentioned D-Rex. I'll tell a quick story about that. Or unless you want. Do you want to talk about the D-Rex?
Yeah, I want to.
Okay, you talk about D-Rex.
Like a few years ago, when I was, younger and scared of the ball, when we would play catch, I would put an arm up when I'd catch it, and I would look like a little dinosaur. So we were like, T-Rex. Or no, D-Rex sounds better. So
yeah. So a few years he was D-Rex on the field.
Mm-hmm.
And it stuck for a while, and I still bust it out every once in a while when he, boots a ball. But yeah, so that separation of, hey, on the field, Seven and D-Rex, and then, the natural instinct, if you wouldn't want to call Coach a nickname, but it's always Coach. I literally could not remember a time when you actually called me Dad in a practice team player environment.
And even at home, sometimes I'm like, Coach, wait, Dad, because I just am used to saying Coach on the field. So
yeah, and obviously we spend a ton of time together. We just got done with a batting session, he and I. So there's a lot of coach-player relationship, and so naturally that bleeds over a little bit into family.
Yeah.
Frankly, we probably spend more time in the player-coach relationship than we dad-son relationship. So I call him Seven a lot at home also. Mm-hmm. But the basic concept of creating those physical indicators, those verbal indicators, including your player, including your child in the conversation, where it's an actual conversation that they want to engage in versus hey, you did this, you did that. That automatically is going to put them on the defensive to the point where A, they don't want to play that sport anymore. B, probably don't want you as a coach because you're probably being a jerk and it doesn't feel very good.
And it makes us, it can make them down and just make them feel like they did horrible that game. So.
Yeah, I recently heard something like, in the end, especially in youth sports, like no one's getting handed contracts and scholarships right now. It's about fun. It's about developing players as athletes, developing players as leaders, and growing members of our community. I'm all about winning. Believe me, I'm not a trophy for everybody kind of guy. Yeah. I'm all about winning, but we got to keep in mind where we're at in the development of our players. In closing, will you please talk about the 3 main points to help volunteer parent coaches be successful?
Yeah, physical indicators, taking off the hat, taking off the whistle, etc. Ask your child if they want to talk about it. No is allowed. And nicknames.
In this episode of Trophy Talk, it's Halloween time, so we got to talk about
the 2 major candy categories.
2 major categories of candy, huh? I mean, we know what they are.
Yes, there's fruity and sour things.
And there's the chocolate and caramel stuff.
I personally love the fruity and sour things, and I think chocolate is okay.
And I think 7 is absolutely insane because the milk chocolate with the caramel, oh, give me a break with that, man.
I just like sour. I just like it, and you can have so much flavor with sour and fruity things. Like, it's just good.
And I mean, he's like that even like with milkshakes and ice creams. And man, get out of here with that. Give me that chocolate caramely, just so good.
I don't know. One of my favorite ice creams is sherbet. Just like all the 3 fruity flavors, just make it so good.
Oh, man, you're talking about favorites. So, like, what is your favorite? When you're up at the door and you got your bag of candy and they have their bowl, like, what is the one thing you're hoping you can snag?
Skittles. Like anything Skittles.
Like original OG Skittles? Or are we talking like the tropical mess?
Prefer original, but if I can get like any Skittles, that's perfect.
Man, and I'm going to drop this bomb on you, right? Like, the 100 grand candy bars. Are you kidding me with that?
I must admit, those are my favorite chocolate candy.
Oh,
and I don't like
God, like that's where it's at, 100%.
Yeah.
And one thing we do at our house, I don't know about you all, but we separate our chocolate and our fruity stuff.
Because if the chocolate is with the fruity can get chocolatey, or the chocolate can taste fruity, and it's just weird. So we separate it into 2 buckets.
And it seems to work well.
Yeah.
I mean, it just is what it is. So there you have it from Coach and 7. We got the chocolate caramel side.
On the fruity and sour side.
In the comments, tell us what your favorite Halloween candy is. Hope it was a great Halloween for you. Fantastic. Thank you so much, 7. Hey, we really appreciate you joining us here on the first episode of Going Yard with Coach and 7. Hey, that concludes this episode.
Be great.